Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of For the Fun of Knit. It's a podcast all about knitting adventures and misadventures, because misadventures is a big part of knitting, and learning from knitting is what really challenges us, I guess, and certainly makes it interesting for me. I am Linda, known as Nena Knits on Ravelry and on Instagram. And this is just a fun podcast that I do for fun, hence the title. You're not going to get social commentaries or political opinions from me. If you are interested in what I think, by all means, email me. But this is supposed to be fun. And this certainly, I think in my last podcast, I said knitting was a bit of escapism for me. I don't think that's the right word, because it's not escape that I'm looking for. What knitting does for me is I learned a new term, which is from a Danish culture, which is hygge, Hygge, and I think it's pronounced hygge, if my audio book was telling me the correct pronunciation. But it's really this feeling of calmness and well-being, creativity, enjoyment, and savoring every moment, I guess, is what I got out of the definition of hygge. So knitting for me is hygge. not escapism. But hey, escapism kind of works as well. Lots to talk about today. I love trying to keep it under an hour, but I can't promise that I'll do that. Certainly want to take just a moment or two to thank all the viewers, all the people who sent me comments. I'd like to review or respond to some of the comments, which I'll do just in a minute. But it has been an absolute blast in the last month, I have to say. I'm not a maker. I'm not in the business. I don't earn a living from knitting or any aspect of living. I am the ultimate consumer of all things yarny and knitting. And so by all means, if you enjoy this podcast, subscribe if you want. It's not a requirement. The only benefit to subscribing is that if I do another podcast and you enjoyed it, you'll kind of get a notification if you toggle on the little bell, and I think it's on the right-hand side of your screen. But if you don't subscribe but still want to watch, by all means, please watch them. And if you enjoy it, just hit the like button. But and leave comments. I love the comments. I'm learning. I'm meeting new people from all over the United States and Canada, and I even have a viewer from Italy. Hello, Anna, which is such a blast. But also just opening a whole bunch of doors of knowledge through podcasting, which I did not really anticipate. And that's through the comment section. I haven't been introduced to a whole bunch of stuff. So let me just review a few of the comments and mention a few names. No last names for privacy. But certainly all of the comments that I've received, I can't be any more pleased. My goodness, it was totally unexpected, but they're very positive. But through some of the comments, I've discovered a couple of new podcasts. I've discovered a couple of new yarn dyers. I'm on the hunt for Canadian yarn dyers. I always have so much access to American yarn dyers and purveyors of wool. But Canada, it's a little bit less. We have tons of them, but I personally just don't know of them. So I am now on a mission to explore as much as I can of local yarn makers in all the different stages. And I will continue to buy from my favorites. As always, I love to support everything that I can. So needless to say, hello Peggy, if you're watching this, thank you for reaching out to me. Honestly, I think Peggy and I are sisters. In a sense, our lives kind of worked parallel, and she just introduced herself to you. Just introduced yourself to me recently, and Peggy has a podcast called Through the Back Loop. She has a very nice, Peggy, you have a nice calm demeanor, and I love your projects. And what killed me about watching your podcast is, seriously, we have the same taste. We're making all the same things. I think that's just a blast to find like-minded, artistic, crafty people. So that's kind of fun. Nicole, you introduced me to a yarn dyer from back east, and I'm gonna say it was Toronto or Ontario, Le Bleu Poussière, which I loved your comment. You said you were stalking this yarn maker. I am now stalking them with you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't, I will put notes down below, and I'll put a little spelling on the screen for you. But if you have not checked out this yarn dyer, it's very luxurious. It's kind of exquisite, but OMG, beautiful, beautiful yarns. I met Carla, who is the owner of Knit2 Yarns in Kamloops. She reached out to me through my podcast, and so I look forward to taking a trip up to Kamloops at some point and visiting Knit2 Yarns. And if you've never watched the podcast Cozy Up Knits, these four sisters from Alberta, where are they from? Grand Prairie, Alberta, I think. Anyway, they mention Knit2 Yarns a lot, even though Knit2 Yarns is in British Columbia and they're in Alberta. Obviously, they have a high regard for this yarn shop. And Carla, kudos to you. Looking forward to you getting an online shop so we can help you out and spend some money in your yarny world. Hello to Barbara from Delaware. That was fun. And Anna from Italy. I already said that. And Cheryl, yes, my mom will be making a guest appearance at some point. She just has to get a little settled in her new home, but certainly looking forward to doing that. Sue, Vicky, and Susan, and quite a few other comments about, I'd made a passing comment about whether or not I should, you know, introduce some of that stash that I have back there. And I think there was a bit of interest in that. So I don't know what that's going to look like yet. I would like to make it interesting and informative, and I'm learning more and more about the different wool types. I'm learning, as you know from my last podcast, superwash versus non-superwash. I'm a newbie when it comes to yarn. What you see behind me is just an attraction for color. Regardless of weight or whatever that was, I just started purchasing what I liked. Some of them had projects in mind, some of it did not. I watched a podcast. I apologize, I can't remember who hosted the podcast, but it was about what kind of a knitter are you? Are you a product knitter or are you a process knitter? And a product knitter, you all know this, but this was pretty new to me. My sister sort of talked to me a little bit about this, but a product knitter is obviously an individual who sees something, they like it, they'd like to have it, and then purchases the pattern and then goes and gets the yarn for that project. Doesn't mean they don't have a stash. It just means that they've got very specific plans for a project, and they tend to work a little bit more monogamously. Maybe not 100% monogamously, but generally speaking, have the project, want to start it, want to finish it. Whereas a process knitter like me, I think I counted, I had 16 works in progress. 16. We are not going through all of them today, but over, you know, the next couple months, I want to get finished with some of them. I'm going to share, obviously some of them are here today and you've seen some of them, but some of them are new to you anyway. But sorry, I keep saying, I'm going to start having to drink every time I say, and no, I'm not going to do that because I would never finish a podcast. However, what I'm trying to say is I am a process knitter, and for me, it's just the act of knitting, and it's just the act of, the therapeutic nature and the calming nature and the creative nature of knitting. I think product knitters and process knitters share a passion for the yarn and a passion for the color and a passion for learning new things. Process knitters, however, I can only speak for myself because there might be different variations of process knitters. So I'd love to hear from you. What kind of a knitter are you, and what is it about knitting? For me, it's the actual, the physical nature, the creative nature, and the fact that I'm making something. It doesn't matter whether I finish it. It's that I'm actually making progress on something, and eventually it's going to turn into something. But in the moment, it is just an action, and it is very productive. So I'm a process knitter, and I am a magpie or a squirrel or whatever you want to call me, because what I like about having a big stash is that when I do have a spur of the moment, you know, niggle that I want to cast something on, I can go to my stash and put some really nice combinations together. I don't actually have to think about it and plan, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just not a planner. Things come more spontaneous to me when it comes to knitting. I don't plan out what I'm going to make. I just look back there, something inspires me. Maybe it's an Instagram pattern that I saw, or somebody else knit something, or a podcast, mostly podcasts, I would have to say. And then I just start knitting, and I choose for my stash. And if I have 3/4 of the yarn that I can use for my stash, great. I might have to buy 1 or 2 skeins from my local yarn store or online, but for the most part, I use my stash. My stash probably won't ever go down because it gets replenished. That's a totally different story. But needless to say, that was sort of a tangent on Sue, Susan, and Vicky's comment saying, yes, please go over your stash. So still trying to figure out how that might work. And Holly left me a comment, and oh my goodness, I was laughing out loud about the fact about swatching, like never. Yeah, no, Holly, you and I don't swatch. But interestingly enough, in my latest little endeavors, I did do a swatch, and I had a fun idea about swatching that is not a new idea. It's just, it was new to me. So I'm going to share that in a little bit. And I am also going to look at the book you recommended, which was Sock Sore on 2 Circulars. So that was a sock knitting book by Kat Bordy, all about sock knitting. So thank you for that. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to take a look at that. Quite a few of you are inspired by my Raise the Woof, my version of Casapinka's Raise the Woof sweater. So for Mary and Clasina, yes, if you're knitting them, I want to see them just because I love looking at other people's projects. So if you're not too shy to share, I would love to share them on my podcast. I also got some really good feedback about podcasts in general, and this was more about making sure I have notes. Yes, this is my spontaneous nature, and I go from one thing to another, but the notes I appreciate are helpful, and I will try. I did it in the last podcast. I will try and do it again this podcast, where I put the notes and the timeline so that you can skip around in my podcast, so that you don't have to listen to the long-winded introduction and you can go straight to the parts that really interest you. And Nancy recommended the Bakery Bears. So thank you very much. I'd heard of the Bakery Bears, hadn't really watched them. If no one has watched the podcast, The Bakery Bears, oh, that is actually, got to subscribe to that. Because not only do they do knitting, but they bake, yes. And it's a husband-wife team. Names are escaping me at the moment. But he also does a little bit of tour videos of their surrounding area in Yorkshire of the UK. So very entertaining, very professional, very well done. So really enjoyed that and those suggestions. So that's the fun part about comments. So please leave me comments. Oh my goodness, all this information and all these new ideas and recommendations. It's been a lot of fun. So thank you for that. Okay, so now let's get on to the regular portion of this broadcast of my podcast, which is what am I wearing? Let's get to the knitting. So what am I wearing? This is a beautiful shawl knit by my wonderful sister. Yes, I do knitting. You're going to see more of my knitting. But I have to showcase my sister's knitting because honestly, I swear her technique is, I'm going to say, much better than mine. She is a very precise knitter. She is a process knitter like me, so I'm going to say my sister is halfway in between. I don't know. I'm going to have to ask her that now that I've said that. Clasina, are you a process knitter or are you a project knitter? You love the process. I think you love the process, but you don't have 100 whips on the needles. You like to finish a project. But this is Casapinka's Goldfish Memory Shawl. This is not a new pattern, but honestly, I don't think Bronwyn from Casapinka can ever do something that I don't like. This shawl, and kudos to my sister for the choice of colors, this shawl is absolutely beautiful. It's a wrap, and it's a long rectangle, but it has lace and beads. It's got striping, it's got garter, it's got more lace, more garter, more striping, a little bit of color work. I don't know if you can see it, actually, probably more on this side. This is the better side, maybe. I'll go through that again. But you've got a little bit of texture on the border, then you've got some striping, then you've got a little bit of color work. And oh yeah, this is a better side. Sorry about that, folks. I was showing it to you on the wrong side, and it is just, and look at that lace work, and it's all beaded. I'm not sure. Yes, you can see the beads. It's all beaded. This might have been the first thing my sister beaded. I'm not 100% sure, but I just have to show it because I wear this all the time. This was a staple, and you can wear it in so many different ways. In the wintertime, it makes the best super cozy neck warmer. You can wrap yourself up in it. It is just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful, beautiful knit, and I love it. I really do love it. And so thank you. Thank you, sis. Absolutely one of my favorite items. I'm taking it off because I'm going to show you a finished object of mine. I love that saying, be kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Right now, be forgiving of pretty much everything. Okay, finished objects. I finished my Sunday cardi. My Sunday cardigan by, I'm going to say, Petit Knit. So this was the pattern, Petit Knit Sunday cardigan. It had slightly longer sleeves, long ribbing in the sleeves, and this version is a little bit cropped. It is a worsted weight pattern that is knit with holding mohair. It calls, sorry, that is my Duke. Wake up, honey. He's chasing rabbits and hitting the closet door. But anyway, so this pattern is a worsted weight pattern knit on, what is it? I do have it here. Hang on a second. Where is my knit on? I don't think I wrote down the needle size. I think it was size 5 needles. Did I say that? I'll have to take a look at it. I'll put it in my notes, but larger needles for sure. But you're knitting it with worsted weight yarn and held double with 2 strands of mohair. That's what the pattern calls for. I did not do the 2 strands of mohair. I only did 1 because that's what I had. And it turned out marvelous. I did a few edits, is that right? Edits, modifications, that's the word I was looking for. Apologies, modifications. I made the body longer. The pattern calls for only 11, or pardon me, a certain, what did it call for? I think it called for 18 or 19 centimeters of length, which is about 7 inches, I guess. I did 11 inches. So whether you do centimeters or imperial, I'm not too sure. But from the arms to before I started the ribbing, I actually increased it by 3.5, 4 inches, just to make the body a little bit longer. And oh, I absolutely love it. True to my learning, however, it is superwash. And guess what superwash does? Just like the last time. So honestly, folks, I think that's just, I just like long sleeves. What I like about it though, for me, because this is really this is longer than my raise the woof sweater. These are like super duper long. I'm going to stand up in a minute, but I love it because I just roll these cuffs right up and it is still the perfect squishy Sunday morning length. So let me just stand up so I can show you. And I'll stand back here a little bit, move my chair, and you can see, sorry, I'm wearing a peasant blouse and a long skirt, but you can see how beautiful this is. I hope you can see how beautiful it is. It fits perfectly. I have not put buttons on it, in case you haven't noticed. It's supposed to have 5 to 7 buttons. Couple things, and I talked about this. Oh, it's just lovely. It is just, and it doesn't itch at all. This is made with Madeline Tosh single ply worsted merino, 100% merino, in the Joshua Tree colorway, and La Bien-Aimée silk mohair, which is a 70-30 mix, and just held single. Like I said, I mean, this is just scrumptious. I am so thrilled with the drape of this, how warm it is. I wore it this morning. It was only 10 degrees here. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but I'll take a look. But it was only 10 degrees when I walked this morning. What happened to summer? Totally different topic. However, getting back to my sweater, this is the sweater I knit the medium. I have the right gauge. While I did not do a gauge swatch, by sheer luck, after the fact, I measured it and my gauge is bang on. And what I will say again about this pattern is I knit a medium, which I would not change at all. My top is fitting a little bit big, only because I blocked it a little bit too aggressively, because the body didn't have the positive ease for me that the pattern said it would. So, and I've heard this comment, like I mentioned before on Fleece and Harmony, they mentioned the same thing. So when I knit this again, and I say when, because I will be knitting this again. It is such a fun, easy, fast. Oh, this is a cozy cardigan. Absolutely. It is still a little bit too small around my tushy, in that it just hangs, slightly open, I can absolutely pull it and wrap it around me, but I aggressively block this. So next time I knit this, I will absolutely be, when the 4x4 ribbing stops, just at the bust, below the bust line, so underneath the sleeves, I will be adding probably, I'm gonna say, 6 to 8 stitches on each side to make the large body, because for some reason it's just, and I'm not out of proportion, I'm proportioned, and so the measurements that they're saying with the sweater and what I actually got, even though I was on gauge, didn't match. So that is my thought on it. Another thought I had was, while I absolutely love this sweater, I actually think, now that I think about it, I might make the actual large and use a smaller, just a one size smaller needle. Because, why would I do that? I would do that because I love this fabric. I think the sweater could be a little bit warmer for our climate if I were to do it in a slightly tighter gauge. That's all. A tighter weave. That's not what the sweater's meant for. It's probably meant for moderately cool days and just hanging around the house, which is why it's called the Sunday Cardi. But I would like it to be a little bit more, a little bit warmer, I think. And trust me, this one that I'm wearing is warm. It's just that that's where my head goes. I think I would just like to try it with a little tighter weave, and I guess probably a little tighter fabric around here, because this 4x4 ribbing stretches quite a bit. So I was just thinking that maybe if I made it a little closer fabric, that it wouldn't necessarily stretch out as much. I'm probably talking in a circle because I'm the one who stretched it out. So probably if I just left it and only blocked aggressively the body part, this might be a different story. So anyway, all I should probably say is I love it. Oh, now it's getting warm. Oh my goodness gracious. Now it's getting warm. Okay, taking it off. I will knit this again. Oh my goodness, it's a great, if you want to give a special knit gift, oh wow, this would be terrific. One other thing I'd like to just mention about this sweater, and about how I knit the sweater, not the sweater itself. And maybe you can comment on this as well. I did helical knitting because my skeins are hand dyed and they did not match perfectly. So I did a helical knitting, changing skeins, alternating skeins the whole way. But I didn't do that with the mohair. With the mohair, I kept I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Where can you see this? I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Well, that's a really bad example of it, but maybe that's not such a bad example of it. Is that a bad example of it? I don't know if you can see this, but yes, maybe you can see it there. So right about here, you can see I've got these loops. I've got these loops of mohair because what I was doing is when you're doing helical knitting, when you're doing helical knitting, you can't see this very well. I'm trying to figure out how I can show this to you. Okay, I'm just going to have to try and explain it because I don't think that's going to, maybe you can see it a little bit. Loop, 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 loops. When I was doing the helical knitting, I would slip the 3 stitches of the merino, but I was only using 1 ball of mohair. And so what I was doing is almost like color work. I was taking my mohair, passing behind the 3 slip stitches, and the 4th stitch, picking up the new yarn, and then looping the merino over, and then continue all the way around. Drop one of the merino, the current merino in front, slip the 3 stitches, but then I would have to extend the mohair to the 4th stitch. Do you know what I mean? So it was creating loops in the back. So I was catching my floats. They are almost like floats in color work. So I was catching my floats all the way through, but I can see if you're wearing rings or jewelry that this is going to pull and snag. And so I got to be careful with that. So when I knit this again, because I will knit it again, I am going to use 2 balls of mohair and 2 alternate skeins, so that when I'm alternating completely alternating both. And I'm hoping that will just be tidier on the inside and probably be less problematic when you're putting your sweater on and off, because I would really hate to break one of those mohair strands or catch it and then it's, I don't know, pulls. Oh my God, that would be a disaster. Don't even want to think about it. But that's what I wanted to say about the Sunday Cardi. Love it, love it, love it. That is my only finished object. So let's go on to works in progress, because this is fun. This is fun. And these works in progress are not all new, but some of them are. So let's start with, I've got a few you can see. Let's start with the Briochealuscious shawl. Let's start with that. Is that what I'm starting with? The brioche? Yeah. Let's start with the Briochealuscious shawl. So this is Andrea Mowry's Briochealuscious shawl. Her knitting company is called Drea Renee Knits. And the brioche parts are these green stripes, and then there's brioche of different colors along the bottom. Everything else is just garter stitch. I think it's garter. Is it garter when you go back and forth? Yeah, garter. You just knit the whole entire way. It's lovely. So, fun shawl. I have shown this before. Originally, I was making it for, well, yeah, I'm still making it for my sister. But originally, it was going to be her birthday present from last year, and I was going to make it in peacock colors, and I was so proud of myself because I made it, but then I didn't make all of it. I got to a certain point, and I thought the colors I was using, it was white base, and then I had green and purple and blue. The whole white base didn't work. That was not peacocky at all. I thought, okay, well, that's not right. So what color? Well, peacocks have a little bit of gold, sort of a gasoline-y kind of look. I thought, oh, okay. So I ripped it all out, started again, and I came up with this colorway. So now what I'm showing you is an absolutely exploration in color. So hopefully you will enjoy this. And this is a huge shawl. I'm going to sit back a little bit. This is a huge shawl. This is how far I've gotten so far. So this is the top of it, obviously, and it is in a beautiful blue striped with gold, and this is just, what is this? Is this stockinette or garter? I can never remember what it's called. Knitting back, you're just knitting all the rows. Knitting all the rows. And then it switches to this beautiful purple. So this blue is actually called Deeper on the Inside, and it's by Black Cat Custom Yarns. The gold is Olan. The colorway I can't remember at the moment. I'll find it, but it's the dyer is Olan, and I think they're Irish. And I bought that at Knot House Yarns in Frederick, Maryland. The purple is called Epic Purple, and that is by Black Cat Custom Yarns again. Then you have a wedge of the gold Olan. And now you start the brioche. This was fun. So it's brioche. When I brioched it with the Deeper on the Inside blue, and the green underneath there is Yursa, which is also from Black Cat Custom. And then you have another wedge here, and this is Hedgehog Fibers Dragonfly. They're skinny singles in the Dragonfly colorway. And then you've got a little bit more brioche. And then, here's where Linda deviates a little bit from the pattern. Okay, beautiful stripes. Love my stripes. But why do I have stripes? Why do I have stripes? The pattern does not have a section of stripes underneath that second brioche. Linda's version has stripes. And this is the misadventures of knitting, because I do not know where my head was at when I was knitting this, and I don't know how this happened, but I was missing 21 stitches. 21 stitches. What the heck did I do? Obviously, I missed a few increases, and that created a whole bunch of other panic for me, because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, where did I miss the increases? I can't even tell if I was supposed to be increasing or not. And does that mean one side is going to be off center and off balance? I have no idea. All I know is I was missing 21 stitches. So how could I possibly make up 21 stitches? Well, add a few rows of stripes, because I needed to make sure the stitch count was the right stitch count for when I started the border. And I'm in the front of this, either in the front or the back, I'm not too sure where I'm going to put the pictures, but I'm going to show you pictures of all the mistakes I've made along the way on this sweater. And honestly, I almost consider it death by brioche. And because I taught myself brioche just through the YouTube videos, and I just started the shawl not having any knowledge of brioche at all. So increasing and decreasing in brioche, I don't think I did that right, because I was missing 21 stitches. But now I've got the 21 stitches, and now I'm starting the border, and oh, I'm in love with the border, and it's brioche. And for some reason, this is much easier than the rest of the shawl. But funny thing, so this is the top of the shawl. It goes like this, and then the end is where, I gotta see if I can show this to you. The end is where, can you see that? I hope so. This is the brioche, right? Where we're starting. I'm just going to try and show it. That is the brioche edging, and it's going to be kind of scallopy. Here I thought I was pretty much done, and I thought the edging was like 15% of the shawl. No. The edging is more like 50% of the shawl. Why? Because this shawl has almost 400 stitches. Let me just go through this. Okay, so this is the bottom edge, and it goes here. It goes all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way, and it continues, because I put on 2 needles, and it continues, and it continues, and it continues to that end. The border, this is one repeat. This is one repeat. It took me a significant amount of time to do this, because I am not a fast knitter. And it used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to say 6 stitches of the bottom. The border is knit horizontally, and then you attach it to the stitches along the bottom. So eventually all of this bottom, 400 some odd stitches, or 300, almost 400 stitches, is going to have this border on it. So I'm nowhere near finished. I am here. I thought I was only had 10% left of the shawl, but you knit this section and it attaches to one stitch. Knit another line and it attaches to the next stitch. Knit another row and attaches to the next stitch, and so on. And so while this is absolutely beautiful, and it is going to be stunning in my mind when it is finished, it is like a blast of color. It's going to take me forever. I'm thinking it might take me till Christmas. Seriously, that's going to be long. So classy, hate to tell you this, but you're still going to have to wait. But I absolutely love it. It is super colorful, super vibrant. What would I also say about this? Oh gosh, could I even show you some of the mistakes? Oh no, I'll show you the mistakes later. No one can see the mistakes except for me. My sister will see them when she gets close up to it, but other than that, it is a beautiful shawl. I'm loving it. It is still a work in progress. It is not peacocky. So I'm changing the name. It's just a jewel toned shawl now. Now it's just jewel toned, and it's almost Christmassy in a way. And why is it that everything I do ends up being somewhat Christmassy? But this to me is very Christmassy, or jewels, you know, the crown jewels, like beautiful jewel tones. So we're now just going to call it the jewel shawl. the jewel shawl, not peacocks. But anyway, so that's where I am at with the Briochealuscious shawl. It is absolutely a blast to knit. It's fun. And I'm making progress, so I'm very happy about that. One other thing I should mention about the shawl, it's a crescent shaped shawl. And what I should mention about that is what I learned in terms of the border. Like when you come to the end of every row, when I did the first version of my shawl and I ripped it out and started with these colors, what I was finding is this edging as I was knitting. No, sorry, I'm making this a big hot mess now. It was very tight, very, very tight. So, one of the YouTube videos I saw said, because this was a very simple edging, it was just slip the first stitch, knit the next two, and on the other end, knit two, slip the stitch, turn it around, and it was slip the stitch, knit two. So very simple edging, but it was really tight. And so what I learned to do in order to make sure that the edging could accommodate all the stretch in the shawl was to slip one, knit the next stitch, do a wrap, and knit the second stitch. Always put a wrap on the right side when you're knitting. Or actually, no, it wasn't on the right side, it was on the back side. And then when you come back around, so on the back side, the wrong side, I would slip, knit one, yarn over, knit one, and then continue with the pattern. And at the end, I would knit one, yarn over, knit one, slip one, and then turn it around to the right side. And on the right side, you then drop the yarn over. So you slip your first stitch, knit your second stitch, drop the yarn over, knit the third stitch. So that just added more fiber in the edging that allowed it to stretch enough for the shawl to actually lay flat when it wasn't puckering, right? You know, so it wasn't you're having all this fabric in the middle, and nowhere for it to go because the edging was too tight. So this opened it up quite a bit. So good hint. Interestingly enough, the next shawl that I'm making is also a crescent shawl, but I can't use that technique. So on to work in progress number 2. I told you that I joined the last episode. If you saw it, I joined the Mystery Cal by Curious Handmade, or Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. It was a still life mystery knit along. And I, first of all, fell in love with these colors. Not normally my kind of thing. I don't know, it's not normally my color palette, but there was something about the salmon or burnt orange that really appealed to me. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I'll do that. So I decided to knit it. Of course, it's long over. They have published the pattern. It is not a mystery anymore. This is what the pattern looks like. So this is what I'm knitting. It is the Stillness shawl by Curious Handmade. There you go. And it's beautiful. It's got a little bit of eyelets there. It's got some striping. It's got some texture, some more striping, lace, and then a beautiful lace edge with some picot bind off. And it's large. It's a crescent shaped shawl and it's very large. Well, I did start it. Yay. I am nowhere near finished it. I introduced you to the yarn in the last episode, but I'll review it quickly. This is how far I have gotten. I hope you can see this. I am absolutely in love with how this is turning out. I don't know if you can see because I don't have this on 2 needles to open it up, but there's the textured portion. Here is my striping, and here is the very first with the drop stitch little eyelets. It is turning out beautiful. What I would say about this pattern is it calls for knitting on a 4.5. Is this the one that's knitting on a 4.5? Stillness shawl. Sorry, I'm taking a look here on my notes because I can't remember. thought I put the needles down. The pattern calls for a 4mm needle, yes, and I'm actually using a 5. And I'm using a larger needle because I wanted it to be more airy. Because of the fibers that I'm using, I thought it would flow really nicely. The very first burnt orange color, and this is all stuff I had in my stash. I was inspired by this picture. Look at this. I was inspired by this picture, and this is my version of it. But I had one skein of this. It's a sock yarn by Knot House Yarns out of Frederick, Maryland. And it is part a little bit, I think it's 20% mohair, 55% merino, and 25% nylon. It is called is it their diamond sock? Is it their diamond sock? Yeah, their diamond sock, and the colorway is Red Rock, Arizona. This beautiful dusty rose color that has the orange and green and pink speckles in it is Hedgehog Fibers Alpaca Boucle, and I'll show that to you. So I don't have the orange with me, but this is the Alpaca Boucle, and look at all the different colors that it has in it. It's absolutely beautiful, and it is boucle-ish. It's got all these little loops, but the color is fantastic. And it is paired with Hedgehog Fibers Skinny Single 100% Merino Urchin, and which is a cream with the same color speckles. Who'd have thunk it? I certainly didn't buy them together. This one came in a kit, and this one I bought on my own. But the speckles are identical. The speckles are the exact same colors. So while you probably can't see too much speckling in here, you probably can see some pink and some blue and some green. But it's turning out to be gorgeous, and it's light and airy, and I wanted it to be a little bit larger. When it comes to this edge, like I was talking about in the previous shawl, I could not do the yarn over technique. But what I decided to do is be very, very loose. Very, very loose. Because this is knit the front, purl the back, knit the front, purl the back. Unlike the Briochealuscious shawl. So this one, when I'm doing the knit side, you have to knit one, slip one, knit one. That's the edge. Get to the other side, it's knit one, slip one, knit one. When you flip it to the wrong side where you're purling, it is slip one, knit one, slip one, purl. And then when you get to the end, it is slip one, knit one, slip one. What I ended up doing to make sure that this wasn't going to be too tight is, see, I didn't do it at the very beginning, but I did it towards farther down. Is I just made sure my stitches on each end were really big. And I thought, ooh, that might end up being too loosey-goosey, but no, it still created a nice even edge. Hope you can see that, a nice even edge, but it gave me enough fabric so that it is stretching out beautifully. And when I block it, it will have lots of room to grow. So that is this is my Stillness shawl, and I absolutely love it. Oh, it's squishy. It is so squishy. Oh, I can't wait. And I don't know, those colors they look like fall, they smell like fall. I think my next episode is going to be all on fall. And I love fall. I love all seasons, I think, but I think spring and fall are my favorite. And if I had to pick one, I'm gonna say fall is my absolute favorite. Although my garden does really well in the spring. Fall's my favorite. Let's just stick with that. So that was Helen Stewart, Curious Handmade, the Stillness shawl. Okay, so another work in progress that you have not seen is I am doing a test knit for, well, maybe I showed this. I'm having memory issues at the moment. I swear when I retired, all my organizational skills went out the world. You know, I'm only 1 year into retirement, and I actually had my 1 year retired anniversary. Woohoo! But I think I lost all my organizational skills, so I don't know what to say about that. But this one is the Astraeus pullover sweater by Bad Wolf Girl Knits, Megan. And I'm just going to put this on because this warrants trying it on in order to show you its beauty. This is obviously a pattern all based on the stars and the moons, which is wonderful, but I am doing it, of course, in a Christmas motif. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going to stand up a little bit. So technically, this is the actual pattern. Astraeus, I think it's on Ravelry now. I'm doing a test knit. It's supposed to be done by September 1st. I, of course, will be late. But that is the actual sweater and the pattern. And you can see it's got just a little bit of color work. It's got some moons. Then it's got a few little stripes. And then it's got stars that shoot trails. And then it's got more speckles of work on the bottom. I am not doing 2 colors. I am doing my version, which is a festive version. Whether I don't know how well this is. It's probably not doing Megan's pattern justice, but so I've got some speckles on, so a red and white, a variegated red and white. I've got a tonal green more. I've got a bit of a variegated blue, and then I've got the purple. All of my yarns, the black yarn is just Cascade. It's just a brand from Cascade, and I'm going to have to figure out if I have the actual, do I have the actual tag? I don't know that I do have the tag for that, but I'll put it down in my notes. It is not a great yarn. It's 100% merino, but it's not super soft and plush, but it's a sturdy, hard-working yarn, whatever I chose. And then all of these colors are from Black Cat Custom Yarns. I'm just about to separate for the sleeves, as you can see. And I buy yarn from a lot of sources. It just so happens that Black Cat Custom Yarns is local in Chilliwack. Oops, am I right there? Is local in Chilliwack, and they have some beautiful stellina. It's called their Blingtron base, which is superwash merino and silver stellina, and it comes in so many amazing colors that it is hard to sort of, when you're doing fun themey stuff, it is just they are such a great source, and they have some beautiful luxury yarns too. So they are not just all about a sock yarn or stellina yarn, but they have just an amazing selection. Kim, the dyer, is, or the owner and dyer, has got such a sense of play on color and names, and there's too many to name here, so I will list them all below for you. And then what's interesting is I wanted something for the stars that was super sparkly, and I don't know if you can see this, the camera might not catch it, but this is, okay, here might be a misadventure in the making. This is not what I call yarn. This is acrylic and something else. This is why I call it not yarn. So yarn to me is always a natural fiber, but this is yarn. It is yarn. So not to diss acrylic, because acrylic has its uses and there's lots of fun projects to make in acrylic. But where I think my misadventure might happen is this is over 30 years old. Yeah, this is over 30 years old. This, when we were cleaning out my mom's house to move, to pack her up and sell it and move, we came across an old box of yarn stuff that she had put away and had never touched in the whole 20 some odd years that she'd been there. This is not her yarn. This is my sister's. Glacina, you may recognize this. My sister had knit one part of a cable knit sweater in the 80s or maybe the 90s. I don't know. Looked pretty old. Out of this acrylic. But this acrylic has the best sparkle. It has the absolute best sparkle, and I cannot find anything with this much sparkle in a natural fiber. So if this ends up disintegrating on me because it's so old and it's acrylic and I don't know, maybe it has a half-life or something, then all my stars that you can see here, I'm just starting on the stars, they might just disintegrate out of my sweater. I don't know. I'm hoping not. But this pattern also calls for beads. So in the center of the star, you have to put a bead. Or you can't, you don't have to, but you can. And I decided I've never beaded anything. So I am going to put a bead. Now, again, don't know if you can actually see this. I'm not wearing my glasses at the moment, so everything I'm looking at is blurry, but I followed the instructions on a YouTube video and I put the bead in and I was so proud of myself. I did the whole beading and I went down a couple of rows and then I realized my beads are not in the middle of the star. No, my beads are on the top end of the star. So obviously you have to knit past the row you want to put the bead on and then slip the bead onto that stitch before you knit it in the next row. Yeah, so that doesn't matter. This is just a fun sweater. It's going to be worn, you know, 3 or 4 times a year around the Christmas season. So, but I've got one more set of stars to do. So I will try and practice my beading skills and get the bead on the right row. So there you go, misadventure. But I love it anyway. And this was just a complete whimsical choice. And I just absolutely love it. None of these colors this color was in my stash. This is the black and the red and white were the only 2 that were in my stash. This I inherited. But the purple, the green, and the blue, I actually went to Black Hat Custom Yarns or ordered online because I wanted everything to have a bit of a sparkle. That was it. So that was a bit of a splurge for a sweater that you might wear 3 times a year, but it's a test knit, and I can only say, Megan, it's a beautiful pattern. If you go on Ravelry, it should be there. And if you go on Instagram and look at Bad Wolf Girl Knits, you will see a whole bunch of, or hashtag Astraeus. You will see a whole bunch of different versions. They're all 2 colors. Mine is just, yeah, just a fun sweater. It's just a playful version. So that was my finished object, or pardon me, my other work in progress. As you know, I've got many more works in progress. We're not going to go over them today, but we'll see. I've got one more I do want to show you. I lied. I do want to show you this next one. This one wasn't, when I talked about spontaneous cast on, sometimes you just feel like knitting something, and my sister and I were on the phone and we were talking and we just felt like a quick knit and we wanted something that would be fast and, you know, meet that instant gratification thing. And so what did we come up with? She suggested, I think it was my sister that suggested, the Nina sweater. This is the Nina sweater by Pearl Householder. And it is a worsted weight sweater, I'm going to say, knit with really big needles. Okay, really big needles. So we're talking US 10.5s, 11s, and 13s. So really fast, you knit the front and the back all in one piece, and then you sew the sides together, and then you pick up stitches for the sleeves. And the neck has an interesting treatment where you just put some stitches on a provisional line and then create the neckline, and the neckline is just supposed to roll once you cast off those stitches. So, couple of misadventures to start off with. So the original yarn I used, I'm going to show you, and I actually even put an Instagram photo on it, of it on there, was, excuse me as you see me, okay, was this one. And this is Handmaiden Wanderlust worsted, it's called Sea Silk. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And it's a worsted weight. Love this. Super pretty. Super pretty. This interesting thing about choosing yarns for a project, what I found when I knit this is the needles for me were way too big. Difficult to manage with a yarn that was really sticky. Even if I was using, I started with stainless steel needles, really big ones. I cast on the size. I want to say I cast on the size 3 because that was my measurements. No, pardon me. I cast on the size 4 because that was my measurements. I used this yarn and I couldn't keep the yarn. I kept losing stitches. The stitches were very super loopy, really big. So I went to bamboo needles. That didn't help. It was just too loopy, number 1. Number 2, so that's about the yarn. So for me personally, I changed to a stickier yarn. This was just a little bit too slippy. So I think I have to use a much smaller needle for that going forward. The second thing that happened was it turned out that for the size that I was knitting, which was to my measurements in the schematic, but the waist was way too small. So, I mean, the waist literally was, I'm going to say 5 inches. It could stretch when I stretched the ribbing. It's just a 2x2 ribbing. When I stretched it, it would barely, like it would be tight around my hips. So I thought, okay, no, that's not going to work. And I know why now. It's because this is actually a cropped sweater and I was making it longer. So if it had been a crop sweater, well, my waist isn't that big, so it would have been fine. So it's not really a pattern fault. It was a Linda fault. Misadventure. I wanted to make it longer, but I didn't account for the fact that the ribbing wouldn't actually be an appropriate size for my hips. Note to self, check the measurements and where the recommended pattern's supposed to finish. And if you want to make modifications, make sure you're taking those things into account. Not me, I just dive right in, I start knitting, and then I learn the hard way. So we frogged the whole thing. And we ended up choosing a totally different yarn. The Gilsk Tweed, so Gilsk Tweed, there you go, which is 100% wool. It's a sport weight. It is tweedy, and this is the color. It's color numbers. It doesn't actually have. Okay, it's shade T24. Is that not exciting? T24. It's a sport weight. I'm holding it double. And so this is how it is turning out now. Look at that. That is wonderful. So, modifications. I cast on the size 8 for the waistline. The size 8 for the waistline. But then I didn't want the body to be the size 8. I wanted the body still to be the size 4. So all I did is I didn't do, there's some increased requirements. I only increased, I think, a total of 4 or 5 stitches compared to the 17 or 18 or 20 or however many stitches the pattern called for to get the right size number of stitches in the body. But now I have the right width and it's going to hang nice and it's just going to be a little bit, much looser, much looser. But this one, I can actually see the pattern with this yarn. The other modification I made is I dropped down a whole bunch of needle sizes. I dropped down, so they recommended that you knit the ribbing in a 10.5 US, which is a 6.5 millimeter in Canada. Then they wanted the body done in an 11 US, which is an 8. So they said 11 or 13, 11 and 13. So which would have been an 8 or 9 millimeters in Canada. And I went all the way down to, I did a US 10, so 6 millimeter for the ribbing. And I am using a 7 millimeter or US 10 3/4, 10.75 for the body. And that, look at how loopy it still is. But you can see the pattern. It's actually turning into a pattern. Whereas with the larger needles in this, I couldn't see the pattern. Not at all. It was frustrating as all get out. So that is the modifications that I made there. Some more modifications are coming up because my sister has knit this. We were knitting it together. My sister is a super fast knitter. I do not know. She does not knit continental, but my goodness, is she ever quick. She's already finished this. But through her trial and errors, I get to experiment a little bit more. Neither of us liked the neck. The neck was just a provisional cast off, and leave it open and it's just going to roll. Well, that looked really sloppy, and I might include some pictures. It just looked really sloppy. So my sister frogged it out, did it again, and then she cast off 17 stitches, and she worked one armband, then the other armband, then she cast on stitches again and joined it and continued down the back in pattern. I'm going to do it a little bit different, and the reason being is because the front and the back, according to the pattern, is supposed to be knit all in one piece. What my A-type, I don't know what it is, maybe it's my obsessive compulsive side, I don't know. The pattern would be going up one way and coming down your back the other. So this is the front and then this is the back. And it's not exactly that interchangeable to me. Maybe it is, but it doesn't, no, it's not. So I wanted my pattern all to be the same direction. So I am going to cast off a few stitches at the center for the neckline. Then I am going to work one side, but I am going to cast off every second row, I think, a couple of stitches to create more of a scoop neck. And then I'm going to bind off one shoulder. Then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other shoulder. Then I'm going to knit the back panel, knit almost all the way to the top of the back, but just cast off the center stitches and maybe do 2 sets of decreases to create more room in the neck. Then I'm going to sew the sides together and pick up stitches for the sleeves. So that's what I'm doing. But after all those modifications, and I will put notes on Ravelry when I do that, it is a super fast, super simple knit. It is a very pretty pattern. It's supposed to be lightweight and airy. I'm using a wool tweed. So when that blocks out, it'll be interesting to see how dense it really is. So I will show that hopefully to you next time. No promises, but we'll see. But that is a brand new cast on. So a work in progress. That is all the works in progress. I think that's all the works in progress. Yes, that's all the works in progress. So now we're going to go into a little bit of yarny goodness. Yarny goodness. Oh, so we talked about swatching, and Holly, if you're watching this, I'm laughing still because I think about swatching. So I'm just going to tell a little story about swatching. So actually, let's tell you a little bit of story about yarn first, then I'll tell you a story about swatching. So my sister sent me for my birthday some yarn. Actually, every time I go see my sister, she gives me some of her stash. So let's start there. So Christmas 2018, we went to Virginia, the whole family, and we had a fabulous Christmas. My sister has 10 acres in just outside of DC. And we were looking at all her yarn, and oh, I was just, living vicariously through her stash. We pulled everything out. We rumbled all through it. We were playing with colors and putting things together. She had some projects in mind and she wanted to know what to do. And I said, well, what are you doing with this yarn? And she goes, oh, I don't know. It's not really my colors. I have no shame. I have no shame. I'm like, really? These are not your colors? Oh, they're so my colors. They're so very much my colors. This is a skein that's got beautiful jean blue and burgundy, some wine colors with some green. It's got, oh, it's just lovely. And it's a beautifully variegated line. It's got purples. Oh, it's just lovely. Absolutely lovely. But my sister felt it was too dark for her. She's very fair, very blonde, very fair. So being the opportunist and the wonderful sister that I am, I'm like, I'll take those. How many skeins do you have? Oh, I've got 4. Oh, I'll take those. They are fingering weight and they are Zen yarn. They are from Zen Yarn Garden. That's Zen Yarn Garden, and they're out of Ontario. So, hey, that's kind of fun. Out of Ontario. And this is called A Study of Olive Trees by Claude Monet. Everybody knows Claude Monet, but this is their artwork series. Hope that focuses for you. I don't know if that focuses or not. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But anyway, it was a limited edition colorway. And I fell in love with this, and she said, yeah, sure, take it, no problem. And so I did. Shamelessly, I did. And so now I have 1,600 yards of this beautiful fingering weight. Oh, I forgot to tell you what it was made of. It's beautiful. It is 70% superwash merino, 20% cashmere, and 10% nylon. Super soft. Super soft. So, fast forward to September 2019, before we head out for Spain. I want to go visit my sister because I know I'm not going to see her for quite a while. We're not spending Christmas together. So I went out in September 2019 to go visit her. And we do the same process again because, of course, she's acquired new stash. And what do I come up with? But we did a yarn trade. I brought some yarn and she had some yarn and we traded. And I got this beautiful, beautiful color. I hope you can see it. What color is that? Crimson? I don't know. It's called Dragon Fruit. But funnily enough, it is from Zen Garden. I seem to go in themes with yarn companies. Anyway, Zen Garden. It's called Dragon Fruit. It is same base. It's the Serenity 20 base, which is the same as the other one. And it's 70% superwash merino, 20% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And again, super luxuriously soft. So for my birthday this year, for her birthday, I sent her some skeins of Madeline Tosh DK. I think it was DK. It was either worsted or DK, 2-ply, 3-ply, in Sandbank, in the Sandbank color, because I purchased it. It's sort of like a dusty, a very, very, very pale dusty pink. But on me, it's the same color as my skin, like gone, couldn't see it. So for her birthday, I sent her the whole, I think it was 8 skeins. She is knitting a beautiful sweater, which I'm not going to mention right now because maybe she'll be on my podcast one day and she can show it. I'm hoping, but it's quite the project and it's just beautiful. So for my birthday, she sent me yarn just recently, and go figure, Zen Garden. This is a one-of-a-kind colorway. I have 3 skeins of DK, Serenity DK, and this is 90% superwash merino, 10% cashmere. Oh, and it's DK. This is it. Can you see that? Can you see the beautiful colors? Now notice, my sister keeps buying yarn that is more my shtick than her shtick. Because this was in her, I think, Classy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was in your stash. But it's more my shtick than her shtick. And I get to inherit it. I love it. It is just beautiful. And I love this for several reasons. One, it's DK. It is so luxurious. But this color is different from the Claude Monet version. The name of this is weird. It's Ney. It's Ney 04. I don't know. It's a one-of-a-kind dye lot. But look at this color that is in that pot. Look at that. Look at that. What do you think I might be doing with these two? I don't know. There's a future for these two together because this is just stunning. The colors in this DK version are much deeper. They're much bolder than the Claude Monet skein. The Claude Monet skein is more casual, this is more jewel tones. It's much more muted, and more, not pastels in any way, shape, or form, just quieter, just a little bit quieter. But I love these. So what has this all got to do with swatching? Well, oh, look at that. Oh my God. Oh, I think I have to re-skein. Yeah. Look, I got that one, and I got that one, and I could just, okay, I could just sleep with them. They're just lovely. Oh, I just love them. I just love them to death. But anyway, what has this got to do with swatching? This brings me to my swatching. So I wanted to know, so let's go back to this one. This has been in my stash now since 2017, Christmas 2018. And it's fingering weight. So I wanted to know, well, should I make a whole sweater in fingering weight? Because I'll do that. I have no problem knitting a fingering weight sweater. It just takes me longer. But do I do it just as it is because I love all these colors, or do I mix it with some sort of mohair? And if you can see over here, this section here is all Surrey alpacas and mohairs. So I have a bit of a stash, and I thought, well, I've got several colors that might work well, but I don't really know which one to do. So Holly, here's to our point. Why should you swatch? Well, it also lets you play with color. Never mind finding the right size. So if you take the time to swatch it, you will get an idea of your color options. If you're thinking, which one am I gonna like better? Excuse me for leaving the screen for a second, but the mohairs that I had is, and I better write these down. Did I write these down? I hope to goodness I wrote these down somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. I might have written these down. I did. Okay, good. Okay, so, sorry, I have to use my glasses. This is the Knot House. So this is from Frederick, Maryland, the Knot House. This is 72% mohair and 28% silk. The color is called Always a Bridesmaid, and you get 459 or 460 yards. And that is a beautiful, very pale lavender. So that was an option because this has purples in it and sort of a denim-y blue. So that was an option. Then from my Barcelona knits trip, if you saw that episode, I had bought some of their silk mohair, and it was from Seven Ozek in the eggplant colorway. And this is 70% mohair, 30% silk. And because there are purples and plums in here, I thought, ooh, that might be a nice combination. Might, you never know. So last but not least, I had some Shibui graphite in their Silk Cloud, which is, okay, this is the softest, honest to goodness, 60% mohair, 40% silk. And because it's got the denim-y blues and grays, this might just have been a nice option as well. So I had 3 mohair options to choose from, and this is what I swatched. So this is my, oh, that's turning out quite nice. You can see it quite well. So this swatch, this is just the yarn on its own, which I have to say I really, really do like. When I knit it out, it wouldn't pool like this because I would be alternating skeins with helical knitting. I have to wear my glasses for this because I can't see what I'm doing. This is with the Shibui graphite. So this is regular, this is Shibui graphite. Notice it took a lot of, maybe I'll hold it up a little closer, there we go. It really brought out the denim and the gray and really muted the purple. Like it took a lot of the purple and the green out of it. I think the green stayed and the gray. You might not be able to see it as well on my camera, but the green and the bluey gray stayed. But a lot of the purple and the reds came out. Then here is the Seven Ozek eggplant. And now all I see is purple. All I see is purple. There's no, it's still variegated, but it's pretty much just purple. And then here is the light lavender from Knot House Yarns, which was their silk mohair, but in their Always a Bridesmaid colorway. And I don't know, every color shows in this, but it gave it an overall sort of a jeansy denim-y look is what I'm thinking, a denim-y look. So, and I apologize wherever my eyes are, a jeansy denim-y look. So there are the 4 different colors. I could go plain, I could go Shibui, I could go Seven Ozek, or I could go Knot House Yarns. And then I was looking at just mohair versus single, like the drape and how things, and the weight and the gauge. And I have to say, I like it with mohair better. I do. I find this fingering too thin. It would be perfect for a shawl for me, but for a sweater, I just feel like it's going to, if you're wearing a shirt with buttons underneath it, or it's going to show every lump and bump, I think, is with this weight. This makes it a sport / DK, and I think I just like that better. I think I love the drape. I love the feel. That does not affect me at all. So I think, but I've only got 2 skeins of this. I've got 3 of this and 5 of that, but I've only got 2 skeins of this. So I'm in a little bit of a quandary. I think I might have to order from Knot House Yarns another and hope that the colorway is very similar. Maybe I'll order 2 so I can alternate a lot if I have to. But I'm thinking I like this denim-y for a casual look. So that is a future work in progress, but one reason to swatch. There you go. Check out your colors. Love it. Doesn't mean I'm going to swatch because I never swatch anything. But anyway, so what I thought about swatching, this is the funny part. Another unintended advantage, excuse me for a minute, unintended advantage of swatching is a future, and this is not my idea. I don't know if somebody mentioned it on a podcast or if I was just thinking about it. I have no idea. But this was my swatch for my Zwag. Did the same sort of thing. This is my big swatch for this color that I'm working on. I could start making a quilt with all my swatches. And I don't have any swatches. These are my 2. So, okay, these are my 2 swatches. But should I go forward and swatch more, I could, just by sheer swatching and doing a better job at my overall planning of my knitting, end up with a blanket. How decadent would that be? How decadent would that be? Oh my goodness. So, Holly, another reason to swatch. I thought that was fabulous. Okay, one more last yarny thing, and then I'm just going to show you a couple books, and then that'll be it for the day. But okay, so talking about new yarn, I don't know how to pronounce this, but in my search for Canadian yarn dyers and makers, yarn makers and dyers, I have been looking at the Knit City Montreal vendor list. So Knit City Montreal is put on by Knit Social, which is a Vancouver group of ladies who started this whole thing. They've put Knit City together, which is the biggest yarn festival for knitters in Vancouver, and it's usually held in October. They're going to do something in October. They're going to have some virtual classes. I think it's the last week of September, early October. Nothing live, unfortunately. But from their vendor list, I've been going through and checking out all the websites, and I've been saving the ones that I thought were interesting. I've ordered some yarn from some of them, like Sweet Skein of Mine was one of them, and I showed you that yarn already. That was the Surrey alpaca that I'm doing the beanie with. I've got another one that I will show you next time, but this one is Mêlée à Petit, a party. I do not speak French, so I probably absolutely ruined that. But this is, I do believe her name is Christine, and that is her yarn. And this is another Surrey alpaca, because I have to say, I have no issues with mohair, none whatsoever. But I do find the Surrey alpaca is equally or maybe just slightly softer than the mohair. So it's a good alternative. And I have been wanting to make something in a very, very soft pink for a while, because I have this beauty. This is also Canadian dyed, and I've known about these. I've bought this yarn before. It's Handmaiden. This one is Fleece Artist, actually, and I do believe Handmaiden and Fleece Artist are made out of Nova Scotia. I will find out if that's actually true, but I think it is. And this is in their rose, tea rose colorway. And I have 2 skeins of this and 2 skeins of this, and I am going to make myself something so lovely. I know it's almost my skin tone, and I didn't think I was a pink girl, but that's so pretty. Oh, that's so girly. It's so pretty. Just that soft pink. Oh, I cannot wait. I absolutely cannot wait. Yeah, this is 74% alpaca, and 26% silk. Nice, really nice. And this is 100% merino superwash. Beautiful colors. Had this in my stash forever. Never knew what I was going to do with it. Fingering weight. Only had 2 skeins. Pair it with alpaca, and voila. We have a beautiful, beautiful sweater project in my future. So that's all my yarn. That's all my knitting for this time. I would like just to say that because I am still learning, I bought this book. I had to buy this book. This book of yarn is The Ultimate Guide to Choosing, Using, and Enjoying Your Yarn by Clara Parks. It was recommended on a podcast. I don't know. I can't remember which one. This is wonderful. This is going to save me or help me learn more about the different types of yarn. Because while I don't mind long sleeves, I thoroughly enjoy long sleeves, I would like my sweaters to fit a bit more consistently. I'd like to know when I'm knitting something how it's going to block out and turn out. Like Patrick's sweater is another one. That quarry is American Targi, and it's a woolen spun. I have no idea how it's going to block out. So I do believe I've included some video at the front of this on me addressing Patrick's sweater and where I'm at with that, so I'm not covering it, but I hope you enjoy that little snippet. But anyway, so this I purchased, and I think I showed you this last time. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I have all the DVDs in Blu-ray, which I'm going to start watching again because fall is coming, fall is coming, fall is coming. And this book is fabulous. And I actually am going to make, I'm just going to show you if I can. The first thing I am going to make is the, what's it called? The Wizarding Transportation Scarf. And this is a picture of some of the color work. Platform 9 3/4, a witch's broom, and the bus, the magic bus. And it is a scarf, and it is huge. It is absolutely huge. This is a whimsical knit. I'm trying to see if I can show you a picture. There it is. You've probably already seen this if you're Harry Potter fans. What am I doing? There you go. It's a complete whimsical knit on my part, but that is something I would like to have done by Halloween. So when, oh, we might not have Halloween. Oh my, I'm not going to think about that right now. Oh, I hope that's not true, but that might be. I don't know. Have you guys heard anything about Halloween? Are we going to let the kitties trick or treat? I hope so. But then how do we do that? Okay, sorry. That thought just popped into my mind. Oh my goodness. I'm still knitting it. I'm still knitting the scarf. I'm still decorating my house. I don't over decorate for Halloween, but I'm going to put a few little things out anyway. If anything, I'll be eating the chocolate. Patrick and I will eat all the chocolate. Anyway, I certainly hope we have Halloween. Anyway, so on that note, I have nothing else. That was my knits, my makes, my finished objects, and my future dreaming. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did enjoy it, please just hit the like button. Subscribe if you want, just to get notified that I'm doing another one. But otherwise, I'm glad that you just found me and you're enjoying watching, and just hit the like button. And by all means, make a comment. I'm trying to answer any comments that, require a response. And I just love hearing about what you're making and what you're doing and what your thoughts are. So on that note, everyone, please stay safe and take care of yourselves, be kind, and have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful week. Talk to you very soon. Take care.